Alright guys, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be telling you how you can prepare for TBC Classic Leveling as a healer running around in a dress in full healing gear. And I know what the first comment on this video is going to be: just do dungeons. Well, not everybody wants to mindlessly grind dungeons for hours on end. Some people actually want to go out and see Outland and enjoy the world and do some questing and just take it slowly at their own pace, in their own time, totally solo. So you probably clicked this video because you're worried by the fact that you're a paladin running around in a dress and a hat and you're going to hit like an absolute noodle when it comes to solo questing. So firstly, all healing gear will change in TBC, coming in a pre-patch, to have some spell power damage on it also, but not that much. The tier 3 gear will have a decent amount of spell power on it, but at the end of the day you will still only have about half the amount of spell power that you could get before TBC launches to make your character even more powerful and therefore faster at leveling. Plus, it's much better for Druids and Shamans to level up in Feral or Enhancement spec, therefore they are better off with Strength, Agility and Attack power gear. So, what should you do? Okay, we'll talk about raiding gear later, because firstly I think there's a much easier option that would be great for everyone, especially people who don't actually raid, because there will be a lot of people returning for TBC Classic and they have their characters sitting there in healing gear, no guild and no raiding schedule. So during the Burning Crusade pre-patch, Blizzard changed how you obtain the level 60 PvP gear with the new honor system, so honor points become a currency that can be farmed and therefore spent on gear. But you will also need marks of honor from certain battlegrounds for particular pieces of gear. For instance, if you are a shaman, you definitely want to grab the PvP axe, mace or the fist weapons, but it will set you back 20 marks of the Arathi Basin or Alteric Valley. This is on the Horde side anyway. I'm not sure if the costs are mirrored between the factions, because I can only check the costs on my Horde character on the Burning Crusade server that I play on, so maybe slightly different for the Alliance. So you will have a lot of PvP grinding to do, which, let's be honest, is probably the most fun grinding you can do, especially if you love PvP, because it's just a fun thing to do in the game while simultaneously grinding some really good gear for leveling. If you want to get every single PvP gear piece, you need a total of 95,620 honor points, 90 marks of Alteric Valley and 70 marks of Arathi Basin for full PvP gear, although those marks might be slightly different. The point is you'll need a total of 160 marks of honor. Now obviously you may not want to farm all of that, which is fair enough. You may only want to get a couple of pieces like the weapons, but I imagine many people will be going to do lots of PvP in the pre-patch to get this gear, which should hopefully speed up the queues a little bit, but there's obviously a chance that Horde might still have really long queues, especially for Alteric Valley. So you probably want to avoid the pieces that need Alteric Valley marks. For instance, the Shaman may want to prefer the maces of the fist weapons over the axes because they require marks of Arathi Basin rather than Alteric Valley marks. So let me give you some advice for every single class. So Paladins want to prioritise getting the spell power mace. May also want to get the shield, but your spell power shield, if you have one, like a healing shield, will probably be better. And the set pieces themselves are really nice because of the spell power they have on them. You will want to level in protection, and spell power is really good for protection because you're going to be using consecration and holy shield and everything like that, which scales off spell power. Check out my Paladin guide. I will leave a link to all my leveling guides in the description of this video. Enhancement Shamans will either want to get the attack power maces, axes or fist weapons. I would definitely recommend doing this. And obviously orcs will probably want to go for axes instead because of the expertise ratio. Now dual wielding will actually be better for leveling in TBC because of some new talents. Wait for my Shaman leveling guide to come out very soon. And you will also want to get the PvP set as a big priority because all of your raid gear will have just spell power and healing power on them, and what you really need is strength and agility. Now spell power is nice as an Enhancement Shaman because even if you're running around doing lightning shield, flame shock and flame tongue totem, everything like that, you're probably using wind fury totem, all of those abilities will actually still scale off your spell power, so spell power isn't such a bad stat. It's really just the fact that the PvP set also has some cheeky strength and agility on them, which obviously increases the damage of your weapons. For Druids, you want to prioritise getting the gear pieces, because I imagine most Druids by now have the Druid specific attack power weapons that drop from AQ or Naxxramas. If not, make sure you do get them. Plus you will need to replace that healing gear because you're going to be leveling up in Feral Spec, which obviously benefits from strength and agility and attack power. But if you don't have those AQ weapons, you want to prioritise getting the big two-handed weapon, as this is a really good stat stick and it is a mace. Now, when it comes to Shadow Priest, I'm honestly not going to recommend the PvP gear since it only has slightly more spell damage than tier 3, plus you sacrifice a lot of spirit, which is a very useful stat for leveling because of its interactions with a spirit tap talent. So if you're decked out in tier 3, I wouldn't bother with a PvP set. If you're not very well geared on your priest, then yeah, fair enough, go for the PvP gear. But for priest with tier 3, I'd recommend just enchanting your main hand weapon with spell damage, plus putting Wizard Oil on it, and then just jump into Outland. However, it will be slightly better for you to get some best in slot priest gear from classic raids, because if you have over 400 spell power, you start to do quite a lot of damage with your dots, and you can ping pong pull over 5 mobs at once, and then even more if you get, you know, more and more confident. Again, you want to check out my leveling guides for more information on how to actually level as a Shadow Priest. But anyway, that kind of leads me into talking about raid gear. Now obviously you should be taking advantage of any unwanted raid gear right now, tomorrow, when you know, have finished, even today, after you finish watching this video. You know, if you have Nax, AQ, Blackwing Lair, and then all the other raids on farm, then yeah, take all the unwanted gear that is just getting disenchanted. I think it would be good for guilds to keep farming the raids to gear up their healers for leveling, particularly if they want to respec into, you know, shadow enhancement or anything like that. You want to especially look at tier 2.5 since they provide good stats for the classic WoW mean specs, which obviously become good specs in TBC. So let's have a look. So for instance, the Paladin set provides best in slot stats for a protection Paladin because of the spell power, agility and strength. This is going to be really good for protection Paladins. The Shaman set has more spell damage than tier 3, which does actually still scale with your Enhancement Shaman abilities, plus it has strength and agility, so I think this will be much better than tier 3 for enhancement leveling. For Druids, the gear is not that bad, but I honestly think the PvP set is much better. Honestly, all the set gear for Feral Druids isn't great, right? Because you really want to focus on getting leather offset pieces with really good attack power, strength and agility. Even some pre-raid best in slot pieces would probably be better than a lot of the tier pieces and the stuff that you can get from Zul'Gurub and AQ20. For Shadow Priests, 2.5 is only slightly better than tier 3, but it does also have extra armor which stacks very well with your inner fire. So again, if you have tier 3 or not, up to you whether you want to go for tier 2. I honestly think the spirit from tier 3 is much more valuable. And the great thing about tier 2.5 is that you can gear up very quickly because it has tokens. Okay, there's also tokens in AQ that can be turned into very powerful weapons for different specs. For instance, the Druid attack power mace that I mentioned earlier, which is absolutely huge for Druid leveling. I imagine all of your core raiders by now do not need tier 2.5, so like the other day when I actually did AQ, my guild officer just decked me out in about, I think, 3 to 4 pieces of tier 2.5 in one raid because nobody else needed it, and I imagine most people in raids and guild raids right now could probably do that. So overall, my advice is to roll on any unwanted gear that you're, getting when you're doing your raids. Do as much raids as you can with your guild and keep trying to farm them for your best in slot leveling gear. You may also want to join some pugs and see if you can be cheeky and off spec roll for your leveling gear rather than main spec rolling. I wouldn't be surprised if quite a lot of people will be doing that in the pre-patch phase of the game, and to be honest, when the pre-patch drops you can totally re-roll to like feral or enhancement because you will do really good damage, and then you can just main spec roll in that spec. Get some great gear for leveling. May also be worth checking out some of the really good crafted gear that will be a little bit cheaper when a pre-patch drops. So you got stuff like Devil Saws, Blood Vine, Batskin gear, Blood Tiger, Tibermole gear, Fellcloth gear, which has really nice amount of shadow damage on it. Then you've also got Robe of the Winter Night. Just things like that. Get a look at Atlas Loot, have a look at the gear that may be useful to you and try and get it crafted for yourself. Obviously you probably want to ask people in your guild or in the trade chat. But anyway, that is the end of the video, guys. My name is MetaGoblin. To my next video, ciao.